Get ready for Prophets and Ballers, where politics are a passion, sports are a living, and God is a given.
Hey! Come on now, fellas! We've got to answer the bell. Now let's go!
Welcome to the Prophets and Ballers Midterm Election Speed Chess Update. We are 1 week away from what everyone is calling one of the most important midterm elections of our lifetimes. To simplify it, the pundits and even the politicians are saying the most important elections of our time. We're going to update you guys. We're going to give you guys a little bit of insight of what's taking place, what's going on. As you guys know, we've taken a lot of credit of being deadly accurate, and we mean deadly bullseye accurate when it comes to political elections. We told you guys about Barack Obama when no one even heard about him way back in 2008. We said he would get the nominee over Hillary Clinton. Fast forward, we had Donald Trump beating Hillary Clinton. And then we said Joe Biden would beat Donald Trump when he ran for re-election. Welcome to Prophets and Ballers midterm election. Let's get this show started. Okay. It's an exciting time and a nervous time for many American patriots this time of year, as we are 1 week away from the midterm elections. To be quite honest with you guys, we think we have a very accurate grasp on this election once again. Before we get into some of the states that we want to get into, I think one of the most important things that you all should know is that we're not going to share our polling methodology, right? And there are groups out there that we respect a ton, and we mean a ton. We completely think Robert Cahaly and the Trafalgar Group, they are the cream of the crop. They're absolutely amazing. We love what they do. They've been bullseye accurate as well. And quite frankly, if you think about it, they also bring things down to a common sense. Now, everyone has their own methodologies, from the Nate Silvers to even the sports books, right? To ourselves and, like we said, the Trafalgar Group. But one of the most disappointing things when we see the country so divided, and some would say on the edge of a cliff, that when we do our polling, that we learn that the number one factor for voters is not policy. And this is what a lot of pollsters do not understand. They really think, oh, well, this guy's got the better policy than that guy, or this gal has the better policy than that gal. No. Unfortunately, the number one factor that American voters look for is likability. Now, on the surface, that looks like, okay, that's a good factor. Is that person likable or not? But folks, stop and think about it. Most of these people running are polished politicians. Polished politicians. Sorry, but a lot of them are groomed to completely fake you out, to pull the rug beneath your feet, to pull a David Copperfield on you. They're politicians. No offense, but you are half the country also thought that Joe Biden had a likable quality and an honest quality to him. Even after knowing of his past history, being caught in many fibs, being caught with plagiarizing, being caught and telling and looking right into the camera that he finished in the top percent of Syracuse student body during his law school body of work. He finished 76 out of 85 students in his class. 76 out of 85 students. He said that he had completed 3 degrees. 3. He said that not only did he finish the degrees where he'd have to get 125 credits, that he was getting 165 credits and going well 40 credits beyond the required amount of credits. Well, it turns out he didn't have 3 credits, folks. Sorry, 3 degrees. No, he had 1 degree. So when we look and we do our methodology, likability is the number one factor that voters look for. And as I said, the sad part about it is these politicians will relate to you and will appear likable to you in some way, shape, or form because they're groomed to pull that magic trick, pull the bunny out of the hat. They are groomed politicians. I hate to keep harping on this, but our current president, when you really think about it, all he knows, his entire life, all he knows is being a politician. Folks, that's not the real world. That's living in a bubble. That is living in a bubble. That is, when you live in a bubble, that means, when people use that phrase, that means you're not in reality, you're out of touch. In 50 years in politics, how does that equate to likability? How do you not connect the dots and the common sense? He's got 50 years of training of how to handle himself in front of a camera to appear extremely likable. And folks, come on. You can't tell me everyone wasn't fooled. Take a look at him. Looks like Grandpa Joe. He can't hurt you. He can't go to a war. No way someone like that would ever think of even thinking of war or bombs landing on innocent people. No way someone like that would ever abandon our country to the only people who have invaded us on our own home turf. Stop and think about it. Okay, before we get into some of these races, these state races, before someone tells you that, oh, we're in Ukraine and we have to be in Ukraine because we're defending democracy, bullshit. I call bullshit. Why? If you really, truly are standing on the principles of democracy, oh, we have to topple Putin, etc. There's one group that has attacked us on our own surface and bragged to the entire world of knocking down both of our trade centers, of killing over 3,000 of our U.S. citizens, our Americans in New York City. The Taliban, Osama bin Laden's group, the Taliban, they admittedly killed over 3,000 Americans 21 years ago. And you mean to tell me you're going to go and defend Ukraine, give them all the money in the world and all the weapons in the world, when our own people are struggling economically, but you're saying you're supporting Ukraine in the name of democracy, yet you hand over an entire country to the biggest proven enemy of the United States of the last 50 years, the Islamic regime known as the Taliban. How come we're not in a proxy war? How come we are not supporting the Afghan people, where the women are getting raped and ravished every day, where the children are being used as prostitutes every day, where the women, the children in the entire country has no right to listen to music, doesn't have a right to an education, leading the world in infant mortality. And yet, this administration hands off an entire country to the very same people that killed 3,000 Americans on 9/11? No. I'm not buying that, and neither should you. Now, if everyone understood that, plain and simple, then obviously the state numbers and all these races that we're looking at should be heavily favored towards the Republicans. Heavily favored. Because, again, it makes no sense that you're defending Ukraine in the name of democracy, but yet you leave the Afghan people by themselves, and you gift the Taliban billions of dollars of weapons, number one, and number two, you gift them by giving them their own country as a result of them toppling both of our trade centers. You're listening to Prophets and Ballers Midterm Election Update. Oh, what did George Carlin used to say?
But say what you want about America, land of the free, home of the brave. We got some dumbass motherfuckers floating around this country. Dumbass motherfuckers, you know?
Some of you might not find that funny. Uh, as it goes, we've lost our sense of humor. We've gotten, to the point where everybody walks around with a stick up their ass. It's like everybody just needs to relax. It's just gotten way carried out of hand to the level of stupidity, where people like Bill Maher, he constantly says the same thing now, that especially since when did young kids start walking around with sticks up their asses? It's just become almost comical. Like I said, you're listening to Prophets and Ballers, midterm election update. So, as I said, let's get, to a quick update for you guys. Sorry, as I'm taking a look at this 3-star play that we gave out earlier, Game 3. The Phillies have a 3-0 lead on the Astros, so we hope you enjoyed this 3-star play, which is the biggest play that we post. Our unit systems 1, 2, or 3-star, and then we have super rare 4-star major alert plays, which unfortunately we lost our last 4-star play. We have to own up to it, but we are, I believe, 6-2 on the year on the 4-star plays. Having said that, apologize, as taking a look at the Phillies right now, they have a 7-0 lead. Game 3 against the Astros. We're going to carry you guys through this World Series, and hopefully we remain perfect in the World Series. So let's getting back to this midterm election. As I was saying, the top 3 criteria, with the methodologies that we use, for being, bullseye accurate during the midterm elections. Number 1, as I said, was likability. Number 2, believe it or not, they want to know, the voters want to know what kind of family man or family mother they are, and how are their marriages. Yes. And then third is where the policy rates. So likability, how's his or her marriage, how they treat their spouses, same category. And number 3 would be policy. So in many ways, right, that's why I played George Carlin for you guys. If this was about policy, it would be a slam dunk for the Republicans, because, as I said, and I outlined for you guys that, and you guys know how much I loved Barack Obama. So which means I was on, Team Obama for that long of a time, which means I was supporting, back then, Joe Biden, the vice president. But I've always said that you cannot be dogmatic, okay? That's why I'm prideful to be an independent. I take all the good from the Democrats and all the good from the Republicans, and then, I weigh it. And I wait to see, which side. I'll put it to you this way. Unlike most dogmatic people, where they'll vote blue right down the line, I'm not one of those people that's going to vote blue down the line or red down the line. Many times, where I'll go red, and then blue, etc. If you get my point, during the last the 2020, because I believe some Democrats are better than their Republican opponent, and I believe some Republicans are better than their Democrat opponents. Now, as a whole, me personally, I can't speak for the entire team of prophets and ballers, but me personally, as an independent, as a whole, yes, I would love to see the Republicans take it far enough where Joe Biden does become a lame duck president for his next 2 years. And I say that because I think that would really, truly help the Americans, especially the retirees and our elders that are hoping that their 401ks rebound, hoping that this president can't damage the economy anymore than what's been done. Because here's the good news. The economy tanking the way it has, inflation rising the way it has, energy prices rising the way it has. Folks, it's not Russia. Please. I mean, just that's all I ask for is please don't base your judgments on buzzwords and headlines and then you don't dig deeper. And unfortunately, this is going to scare you guys. We have about a 65% clip where the 22 to 35 year olders take their news stories through headlines and buzzwords and social media trends. Then that's it. That's where it stops. They don't look deeper. They don't go next level thinking, etc. I'm not saying all of them, but that's our findings. And whether you like it or not, whether you agree or not with our methodologies, that's completely up to you. We're not saying our methodology is, the Bible, okay? We're not arrogant like that. However, we have been bullseye in our predictions. You guys have seen our sports methodologies in action. Sports is extremely difficult to make money in. And as we have proven to you guys, we are the less than 3% to 5% that wins more than loses in sports. And then those who have followed us way before we became public, they know our track record when it comes to the elections. Now, in the United States, you can't bet on the elections. However, our European followers, so on and so forth, they've had the opportunities to take advantage of our election predictions, so on and so forth. So that is troubling news. Like I said, we live in a time where people are just going off buzzwords, trends, headlines, and then they get indoctrinated by hearing the same buzzwords over and over and over again. And they become indoctrinated and become robotic. That robotic leads to becoming dogmatic. And they go and cast their vote, which they're completely entitled to. But wouldn't it be nice if at the top of the list, instead of likability, especially when it comes to politicians, as I said, they're all groomed, right, to fool you. Wouldn't it be nice that policy and what they stand for would be literally number one. And as I said, if this was all about policies, we would see the biggest landslide victory by the Republicans in the history of elections. This would be the greatest landslide if the general public was basing it on policies. And as I said and I outlined it, you can instantly end all debate just on this administration's stance with the support of a proxy war in Ukraine that has cost us a ton of problems. Okay? And then supporting Ukraine every which way in the name of democracy and toppling a tyrant, yet giving billions of dollars of American weapons and giving an entire country to the very same people responsible for 9/11, admitted to killing thousands of Americans on 9/11, which is the Taliban. And folks, I'm not speaking out of my ass here, okay? As you guys know, I'm Muslim. My heritage is from Afghanistan. My father was born and raised in Afghanistan, as was my mother, and a host of uncles, aunts, cousins, you name it, a host. And so I get first knowledge, inside information, tick by tick, what's going on in Afghanistan. And yes, just about every day, there is witnessed murders that the media will not cover. Isn't it funny that all of a sudden the media will not cover what's going on in Afghanistan? Why? How did we get to protecting the people that took down the World Trade Centers and not telling the world how these people are still savages? That they'll still chop off an arm, behead, rape. Absolutely disgusting. So don't tell me that we're fighting Putin because we're standing for democracy. Yet we gifted the worst kind of people on this planet, the savage Talibans. We gave them an entire country. Yes, because they run that entire country. It's their country as we speak right now. It's the Taliban country. They have all the weapons. They have all the money in the country. All the money is in their hands. And you want to know what they're doing again? You guessed it. The world's opium and heroin problem comes and starts from Afghanistan, which most people don't know. The opium fields of the world is in Afghanistan. And the Taliban are ready to export opium by the tons, and hashish, which is marijuana, by the tons once again. They're already on it. And boy, do they secure those fields. You see nothing but guns and tanks around those fields. It's unbelievable. So let's get back to the election. You're listening to Prophets and Ballers. Folks, we will continue to give you guys free sports picks for you guys to make money. We'll continue to give you guys free content as best as we can. Hopefully you guys enjoy these. And we will always do it, for as long as we take our breath, because we love this country so much. And at the end of the day, all we're asking for you guys is just don't bring yourself to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Bring 10 or 15 of your friends with you, please. Please get the word out there. Get our subscribers and followers on Twitter and all of our social media platforms, whether it be on Truth Social, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. That's all we're asking for. And in return, we're going to continuously give you guys content, interviews with prominent people inside the industry, and also mega giveaways. And as we said, tons and tons of continued free sports picks and election predictions, etc. So you're listening to Prophets and Ballers. Please give us a visit at prophetsandballers.com. Let's get back into this because it's very important. Okay, so the number one question we're getting when it comes to the elections is Georgia, where you have Reverend Warnock versus Herschel Walker, which is a super, super tight race. And we are getting a clip almost at a 3-to-1 ratio of wanting to know what's happening in Georgia between Warnock and Herschel Walker. So let us give you guys the breakdown here. First of all, this might be the actual race that determines who gets the majority of the Senate. But before we go into the direct Senate race, this is where it becomes very problematic for the Democrats, and why you might expect a pretty big night for the Republicans. So we have it without a doubt that the Republicans are going to take they're going to take a lot of seats in the House. A lot of seats. And when I say a lot, let's just put it at a minimal 20 to 25 seats. That's huge. That's huge. Now, as far as the Senate races, and then going as an overall, where I'm looking at the most is the state of Washington, where you have Patty Murray and Tiffany Smiley, and then also the other one is Oregon. Now, why do I bring those up? Because the most liberal state in this country is not New York and California. It's the state of Washington. There should be no reason whatsoever for Tiffany Smiley to be even within 15 to 20 points. And right now, and this might change going into election day, we only have Patty Murray up by 2.5 points. Okay? Now keep in mind, that falls right into the margin of error, and your undecided is going to be right at 2.5%. So Tiffany Smiley has been climbing up in the state of Washington. How in the world is a Republican about to win a Senate seat in the state of Washington against Patty Murray? The other one, an extremely liberal Democratic state, is Oregon. And if you take a look at the governor's race, there is no business whatsoever the governor race to be within 10 to 15% between the Republicans and the Democrats. Once again, I have the undecided around 2.5 to 3%. Obviously, you have more than one candidate, so you're gonna have Tina versus Christine as the top two. You would think that Tina Kotek from the left, Democrat, would blow right by this. Believe it or not, in the Oregon governor race, as of today, okay, Tuesday, November 1st, our methodologies, our polling shows the Republican up by 1.5 points, even closer to 2 points, called 1.5 points, 2 points in Oregon, folks. And I bring up Oregon and Washington. Okay, let's just say Warnock wins Georgia, and he holds his seat, etc. And let's just say Gretchen Whitmer holds her seat, and then in New York, and let's just say that the Democrats hold at 51 to 49, which is a possibility in the Senate. In the House, like I said, that's a foregone conclusion. It's not whether or not the Republicans take seats. The question is how many and how badly will the Democrats get taken on that side. But on the Senate side, we can easily see the Democrats holding 51-49. You can even get... But here's the problem where the Democrats have. Again, and we understand and we do our polling on a state-to-state basis, right? Oregon, the state of Washington had that summer of love. The state of Washington, I absolutely love it. I love Seattle. My wife is from Seattle. Absolutely love it. Unbelievable. But if you go to Seattle, it's very sad what the homeless situation there is. It's actually very sad what has happened to the city of Seattle. Seattle is the home to Starbucks, Microsoft, Amazon, Nordstrom, Blue Nile, Seattle's Best, Starbucks. So, I mean, just Starbucks, Amazon, Microsoft, Nordstrom's. I mean, what else do you need to say, right? Unbelievable state, unbelievable entrepreneurs. Job market's absolutely always robust there, right? You have Amazon, Microsoft there. Nothing else needs to be said. Oh, Costco. Costco's a Washington innovation. The very first Costco is from the state of Washington. And we can go on and on. The innovation in the state of Washington is unbelievable. So, phenomenal job market, and there'll always be phenomenal job market. And then the housing market is unbelievable. Now, if you're an outsider that goes and visits, you'll think it's crazy because your money goes nowhere. That's how expensive the houses are in Seattle. Well, in the suburbs. Because as I said, the city of Seattle has become, in many ways, a dumpster. So when you see these close races in Oregon and in Washington, Oregon had all those fires, all the looting, and all that crime that happened. And then in Seattle, as we all know, they had that experiment known as the Summer of Love. And then they started shutting down police units. They started leading the country with defund the police, where in most states, defund the police was just a theory. In the state of Washington, they were actually defunding the police. In the state of Oregon, where in both states are sanctuary states, but in the state of Oregon, they've made, as we all know, they've made drugs. Small crimes are, call it, legalized in small portions. And so now you have crazy fentanyl and heroin addictions in both states. But it just goes to show you, and we're not here to, sorry guys, we're just not going to share our methodologies with our polling, etc. First of all, that would take us forever anyways, but there's many layers to polling. But that right there, Oregon and Washington, tells you that as a whole, that likability and their personal life might be the top two things, but that's in a statistical category of a certain age group, 22 to 35. But the state of Washington and the state of Oregon is telling you that Americans want to feel safe again. Crime is a big factor in this election. The other factor in this election, so now when you get to the policies, and I've already hammered home the Ukraine false narrative, and Tulsi Gabbard can tell you guys that, okay? That the military complex in this country is a power that most cannot even comprehend. Okay? Do you want to know where the Republicans and the Democrats are joined extremely strong, where both hands are joined like ironclad. And Tulsi Gabbard will tell you this as well, as the foreign policy. And the foreign policy is, and they learned it from World War II, the military complex, they want wars. And if you want to know the number one reason why Rhino Republicans and the Democrats are still infatuated with Donald Trump, right? Because we get so many emails, get thousands of emails. Can you guys explain why the country is still infatuated with a president who's been gone for over 2 years? Well, it's because Donald Trump goes against the military foreign policy. Donald Trump absolutely would not compromise his belief in staying away from wars. And he truly believed that it's not our place to, and what's wrong with this? He actually used the words. It's not our place to police the world anymore. It's modern times. How much longer do you want to colonize these other countries? He said himself, we didn't go to Iraq. No difference than supporting Ukraine. Oh, we went to Iraq to stand up for democracy and topple a tyrant. Really? Anyone who understands history and the Islamic world will tell you that Saddam Hussein was a big opposition and a big hater of the Taliban regime. Absolutely despised bin Laden. Saddam Hussein was the opposite of the Talibs, the Taliban. He was actually very liberal. Very liberal. We're going to Iraq in the name of democracy. Here we go again with lies. Nope. You're going to Iraq to colonize, going there for the oil at that time. And folks, this is why you have to think next level. Okay, things just don't happen, randomly or by accident. Behind the curtain, there's political chess being played. On the front, on the surface, yeah, you bet the Republicans and the Democrats are divided. But behind the curtains, when it comes to foreign policy and supporting the military complex, both Republicans and Democrats are all about supporting proxy wars. And they use the narrative in the name of democracy. If they really believe that, then in a span of 2 years, right, you have Afghanistan and Ukraine. Explain to us why you gave the Talibs billions of dollars of weapons at no cost. You left the weapons there for them. And you gifted them an entire country. You knew the Talibs were going to topple Afghanistan. Okay? This is USA intelligence. Okay? They're not going to get it that far off and that wrong. Where, oh, we miscalculated that the Talibs were going to take over. Of course they knew the Talibs were going to take over Afghanistan. So where is your fight for democracy there? And you should actually have more passion supporting Afghanistan to fight off the Talibs than you do Ukraine versus Russia. Why? The Talibs, they killed our brothers and sisters in New York City, September 11th, 2001. Nothing else needs to be said. This country has never been attacked on its own soil except by the Taliban. That's a fact, folks. That's a fact. Okay, as I take a look at this baseball game, so that's the situation with Oregon and Washington, okay? And that should be a big, big red flag for the Democrats as a whole. That, wait a second here. These two sanctuary, extremely liberal states, if one goes Republican, that's just one of those goes Republican, and even if the Democrats hold the Senate 51-49, I consider that a huge losing night for the Democrats. If the Democrats lose any of these states, if they lose New York, okay, and I'll get to that in a second, we'll get to that here in a second. She's losing a lot of ground, and he's charging up. If they lose either New York, if Gretchen loses Michigan, or if the Democrats lose Washington or Oregon, those four states, New York, okay, Michigan, Washington, Oregon. If they lose one of those states, and I don't care what happens in Georgia and everywhere else, Nevada, Arizona, etc., some of these key races that, the media keeps talking about, that sets up for a disaster for the Democratic Party going forward. Now, that disaster we might not see in 2024, and that's for another day or story, because that's a presidential election. And that depends on what's going to take shape with who's going to come up for the Democrats. Okay, my guess is the Democrats are going to come up with someone that's more in the middle. Because if you lose New York, Michigan, Washington, or Oregon, if you just lose one of them, if you lose two of them, absolute disaster. If you lose three, say goodnight. If you lose all four, I don't even know how to react to that. That tells you where the direction of this country is going, and that tells you that even the most liberal of liberal states, they're not just speaking against their representatives on the ballot. They're just not speaking against a Gretchen Whitmer. They're just not speaking, against the Democrat in Oregon or Washington or New York. No. When that happens, they're speaking against this current administration with Joe Biden. That goes much, much deeper. And that's where you're going to see, if that happens, I'm saying if one of those states goes Republican, I will guarantee anything that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will not be on the presidential ballots in 2 years. No way. No way. Because Barack Obama, which we know, okay, he's still the head honcho of the Democratic Party. He's going to bring in the horses, and he's going to say, we got to go more modern. This far left extreme has gotten out of hand. For us to lose one of these 4 states is an embarrassment. You're listening to Prophets and Ballers. Please visit us at YouTube, subscribe there, follow us on Instagram, please come to our Twitter, please follow us there. Help us grow, please. We're not ashamed to say, please help us grow. We would appreciate the heck out of that. Okay, so let's finish up with Georgia as I promised. I did say that we're going to touch on New York as the Phillies finish off the Astros tonight. Don't you wish all these 3-star major winners would be this easy? So the Phillies tonight, game 3, they win 7-0. And so the Phillies take a 2-1 lead over the Houston Astros. So our 3-star winner hits over there. As of right now, we have Zeldin ahead by 2 points in New York. Folks, that's a big deal. A very big deal. Now, what does that tell us? Tells us many things. It also tells us that the mayor has, believe it or not, Adams, he has helped Zeldin because he has brought the attention to the crimes happening in New York. And the other thing is, folks, images are powerful. Now, there's been about 13 to 15 pushes at the subway station with the population of New York. There'll be some people saying, oh, that's not that many. Folks, if that happens once, that's insane. If that happens once, that is insane. For it to happen 13, 14, 15 times, those images are extremely strong. Okay, so there's one thing when you talk about crime, when the New York voter goes to the ballot, but then there's images where, folks, the subways are being used at almost 40% less. That's alarming. Stop and think what I just told you guys. Subway use down 40%? People are scared out of their boots. As I said, images are extremely strong. This time of year, and especially for these type of events. Now, everyone has seen street crimes, looting, etc. But getting pushed off in front of a subway, no one has seen that before, let alone heard that before. That sticks with the voters because New Yorkers want to use the subways. And the other thing is, that's a terrifying sight if you've ever seen it, or terrifying stories that all New Yorkers have heard. Did you hear about the person that got pushed in front of the subway? And then to hear that 13, 14, 15 times, that's scary. And that's another case where crime is having an extremely high impact during these midterm elections. And believe it or not, we have Zeldin ahead right now. Now, things can change, right? Because all of these, which is amazing. That's why Thursday we'll give our final predictions. We're going to bring in Dave Mason from Bet Online Sportsbook, and that's where we're going to go even deeper. We're going to take our pooling methodologies and we're going to create a hybrid with the sports books and the sharp betters, and then from there we'll give you and constitute, our picks of where we think this goes and heads. But if, as I said, if the Republicans take one of those four, New York, Oregon, Washington, or Michigan, that's problematic on the grand scheme of things for the Democrats. But I do see that there's a very high probability that the Republicans can take two of the four. You give them New York with the way Zeldin's moving up, and then all they got to do is take either Washington, Oregon, or Michigan, and that's two of the four most unlikely seats that they were going to take, meaning the Republicans, and to carry half of those would be just that would just be absolutely shocking. So as of right now, at this very moment, prior to bringing on Dave Mason from Bet Online Sportsbook, the edge, as I said, the House, don't even look at it. The Republicans are gonna. It's just a matter of how many seats they will take there. I said minimal 20 seats. That's probably being on the conservative side. And if I was to make a guess prior to Thursday, I do think this could be a 51-49 type of situation, or 52-48. As of right now, yes, I do think it's leaning 52-48 at the Senate with the Republicans. Now, that could easily shrink within the next week, and probably will. Maybe it'll end up 51-49 Republicans, or like I said, it could flip and go 51-49 Democrats, and they hold par. Okay, to Georgia we go, and we'll wrap it up with Georgia. For some reason, this is everybody's questions. They're enamored with Georgia. Let's talk about a couple things with Georgia. If you want to go by likability, you would have to give that edge to Herschel. Okay, so news has come out against both men and from women's issues. Okay, now Herschel's has been allegations where anonymous women have claimed that he has paid for an abortion before, so on and so forth. How much weight will that carry? Here's the problem with Warnock. By the way, how big is Warnock's eyes? Not sure if you guys see that he's always carrying 2 suitcases with him. In each suitcase is one of his contact lenses. You know how regular normal size eye people, they have those containers for contact lenses, small, you can put in your pocket, in your purse. This man carries 2 suitcases. One for his right contact lens, the other for his left contact lens. I'm talking, this guy's, if he has red eyes, he's going through 2 bottles of Visine per eye. Never seen eyes that big in my life. Just, I don't know why I have to say it. So imagine, those big eyes when they're angry. And the point that I was making, now his wife's story is not an allegation. This man ran over his wife with a car. And it's there. And his wife came out and said he's a phenomenal actor. He puts on a great, great show as this reverend or as this nice guy, etc. But basically, she said, I just can't take it anymore. She basically said he's a wife beater. And like I said, with those big giant eyes going through 2 bottles of Visine per eye, that's pretty scary when he gets mad. Now, going back to the likability, I think that's where Warnock has a problem. With Herschel in a Christian Bible state like Georgia, abortions is a big problem, especially if you're saying you're against it. But Anonymous, we'll see how much weight that carries. However, you have videotapes of Warnock's wife going under domestic incident, violence. Not cool. That is not cool. And this country needs to stand up against all kinds of domestic violence. Okay? All kinds. The whole country gathered behind Johnny Depp, rightfully so, during the summertime. Well, you need to stand up for Warnock's wife at the time when she's getting suitcase eyes chasing her down with a car. That's an image. So when I say images play a big factor in these things, that image of someone getting pushed off the subway, that's a powerful image, folks, in New York. And Zeldin's used that. He's brought that up 1,000,000 times. And he says it himself. In my worst nightmares, I could never imagine something like that happening. But in Georgia, both of these men are under heat versus women. One under heat for allegedly paying for an abortion, and then the other, his ex-wife, Warnock's ex-wife, with a domestic issue. So that comes down to the likability. The other thing is, remember in the beginning we said, people ask if they're married, how do they treat their spouse? How's their marriage? That can play against Warnock in a big, big way as well. And finally, to wrap up Georgia, folks, it's as if the political gods have sent Herschel Walker a gift. Image is everything. Images, I should say. Because the voters take these images to the ballot box with them. It just so happens that the Georgia Bulldogs are playing their biggest college game of the year this Saturday. Georgia's ranked number 1. The game's in Athens, Georgia, and they're hosting and playing the Tennessee Volunteers, who are ranked number 2. Now, why is that a big deal? Because it's the biggest game of the year for Georgia, number 1. It's a couple days right before all those young kids in Athens, Georgia go to the ballot box. Number 3, Herschel can send that image and burn that image in all of those students' heads or whomever's, right? He can burn that image on Saturday. Don't forget that I'm a big reason of why Georgia football is even Georgia football to begin with. Not in an arrogant way, obviously, right? Obviously, we know Vince Dooley, etc. We know the story of Georgia football. We're not saying Herschel built that program. But that's when Georgia started really building their program and making a serious move, was in the 80s. And Herschel was probably the most prominent player ever at Georgia. So if I was Herschel, believe it or not, I would offer to give a pregame speech to the team on Saturday, or hang out on the sidelines for about a quarter, maybe 2 quarters maximum, and then leave. And all the students will definitely see him on the sidelines. It's going to burn that image that, whoa, Herschel's one of us. Herschel's one of us. Suitcase Eyes isn't one of us. Herschel's one of us. Herschel's one of us. That's a big image. But the way he has to play it is where he's there for a brief amount of time. So Warnock doesn't come back Sunday and say, well, wow, Herschel was attending the football game. I was out there working with such and such, or working with this group, etc., etc., etc. No, what Herschel wants to do is be there for a brief amount of time, where he says that it was a busy day for me on Saturday. I wish I could spend the entire day on the campus of Georgia to support them, but I managed to get out there for 15 to 20 minutes to show my support and love for this football program and the student body. And then from there, we went and visited such and such hospital, whatever, right? So that image would be extremely powerful. If he does that, if he shows up at that Georgia game Saturday, I believe he wins by 4 to 5 points. If he doesn't show up to Georgia, I still think it's a 2-point race. Still think it's a 2-point race. So folks, email us, whatever you want to email us, until Thursday. Any questions that you have for Dave Mason. This was supposed to be, an abbreviated version going into Thursday. Apologize that went well over the speech test a lot of time, but just wanted to catch you guys up to date of what's happening in these midterm elections. The most important thing is what we ask from you guys is vote. But when you vote next level, meaning put thought into it. Don't go with buzzwords. Don't go with where the herd is or the crowd is or where your friends are voting or what's trendy on Instagram. No, be a patriot. Do your homework. Vote for the right reasons. And as I've outlined, the most important reasons for me are policy issues. And I don't want you guys to forget what has disappointed me the most with this administration is the lies after lies after lies. Inflation, okay, food prices, oil prices, energy prices. Those are all self-inflicted wounds. It's not Russian wounds. As a matter of fact, the very fact that we are keeping oil prices high, we're actually not just supporting Ukraine through taxpayers' dollars. You want to know who we're supporting with high oil prices? Putin. If we got our own oil out of the ground, and I mean by abundance, to lower the price of oil, Putin can't afford the war. Under $50 a barrel, Putin cannot afford to sustain this war. So who are we supporting? Are we supporting Russia? Or are we supporting Ukraine? Or is it that the military complex and behind the curtains, we just think war is good no matter what? We just think war is good no matter what. Because if we've caused high oil prices, then we're the reason why Putin went to war in the first place. He cannot afford to go to war if oil is below $50 a barrel. Everyone's like, why didn't you go try this against Trump? First of all, Trump probably would have never let him. Trump just didn't mess around. That's one. But number two is during the Trump years, oil was going to negative. We thought, after 2008, 2009, we'd never see oil below 100. Then we start seeing oil in the $20 range, $30 range. So if you get the price of oil down, Putin's done. Putin's done. It's that simple. If you really want Ukraine to win this war, and you don't want it at the expense of taxpayers of your own country, where inflation is killing them. It's killing us. Watch what $49 a barrel oil does. Stops the war like that because he couldn't afford it. Couldn't afford it. So don't tell us that the Ukraine war is in the name of democracy and trying to look virtuous, or, we're trying to topple down this tyrant. And no. Absolutely not. If you want to topple Putin, then bankrupt him. Very simple. Bankrupt him. And come out and just announce it. If you're so much into the green agenda. And speaking of the green agenda, watch the movie. And Michael Moore, he'll tell you, we all support finding ways to help out climate change. No one's denying climate change. But the problem is, another big lie is the solutions. And Michael Moore in The Planet of the Humans exposes that. All of these, from solar wind to this, to that, solar and wind, this documentary, and Michael Moore backs it. Of course, climate change is happening. Of course, it's for real. Of course, everyone wants to do something about it. But all these billionaires have been lying to you. Not one of them has the solution. Not one. Watch the movie, the documentary. It's called Planet of the Humans. Because every solution they have is tied to fossil fuels. And every solution they have calls for more fossil fuel usage. And then the other thing is, everybody knows how much carbon is emitted when you chop trees down. Now you have billionaires using wood chips for energy. So you're destroying, so you're for the green agenda, but yet you're destroying ecosystems by destroying all these trees. So that's where people are fed up, is with this Ukraine lie. Like I said, you can catch Joe Biden in so many different ways, right? If it's in the name of democracy, then you bring up the Afghanistan issue. Okay. You're standing up for democracy, yet you gifted the Taliban billions of dollars worth of weapons, and you gifted them an entire country. Now, the weapons that they have is enough weapons where they have a stranglehold of Afghanistan for as long as they want. So you can't use that Ukraine angle. And then if you want to use the angle of you're out to change the regime of Russia to topple down Putin, then destroy the price of oil. Why don't you do that? And if you really care about saving Ukrainian lives, if you really want this war to end, crush the price of oil. No one in the world has as much oil as America does. And you can even tell all the citizens, folks, we're pulling out the fossil fuel from the grounds as a temporary solution, but it is a solution to help the Ukrainians in the fight against Putin. By pulling the fossil fuels, we will smash the price of oil, and Putin cannot sustain continued war with the price of oil depressed, because Russia's entire economy literally is tied to the price of energy. So there's no way around it, folks. There is no way around it where they can get out of this war lie. So that's the first part. And that's what hurts this administration. They've just been caught in way too many lies. Inflation has been self-inflicted. This Ukrainian war, they're caught in a lie. I've brought up so many ways, right? And as I said, you can use two angles. If you really think you're supporting Ukraine and the fight for democracy, why didn't you do that against the people that killed 3,000 of your own American citizens, the Taliban, in Afghanistan? Or you can go the other route. If you really care about toppling Putin, crush the price of oil now. There's solutions to ending this war. You've heard Prophets and Ballers midterm election update. We're going to come back with a full podcast with Dave Mason from Bet Online Sportsbook. For now, you've listened to Prophets and Ballers midterm election, and congrats to everyone who took the Philadelphia Phillies to win Game 3 of the 2022 World Series.